And we are live. Welcome to Wolf Truth Real Liberty Media, broadcasting here. And we got a little side-by-side chat going over with XX'd. That is Real Liberty Media, Channel 24. Join the conversation and welcome Chuck Horton of Double Cross Radio from XX'd, broadcasting Thursday nights, following Hal Anthony, matter of fact. So, that's your enhanced education. If you want to re-listen to Hal Anthony replay alongside his broadcaster page, where you can keep up with the notes that he has taken and provided for us for that enhanced education from 9 Witches with Hal Anthony. We have our guest today, Chuck Horton. I've been listening to for a very long time. I did precede his broadcast in House Spot on Thursday nights with What Matters Worldwide. There's a lot of folks in this world that I count as heroes, and Chuck is one of them, because he's out there talking and telling people, providing information, and just doing what we really all need to be doing, and that's sharing our voice, What Matters Worldwide. And right now we are live with this is no time for rational thinking. I got a phone call, and I'll let you take it from here, Chuck.
Okay, well, thank you, Vince, for a nice introduction. I was very honored, actually, to be asked to be on this show. My wife seems to think nobody listens to me, so I know I have at least Vince listening to me. This topic of expatriation and leaving America and all this is something we've covered, I would think, maybe 5 or 6 times on the Double Cross show. And at first it kind of seemed foreign to me that as someone who was I thought of myself as being very patriotic, that was not the way to go. We should stay and try and change things. And I have stayed, and I'm still trying to change things, but more and more I feel that it's probably a waste of time. There's a lot of people you talk to, and their eyes just glaze over. They have no idea what you're talking about. Their lives are dominated by TV, or the media is they call it programming for a reason, and people are just that's their worldview, is that whatever comes out of their TV picture, and it's not even close to reality, and so for those reasons, slowly it was actually pretty quickly. My view of expatriation changed pretty radically. I feel now that it's probably the most patriotic thing you can do is to save yourself. It's like if you're on an airliner and suddenly there's a drop in cabin pressure. They say, put the mask over yourself first, then treat your children. And that's because if you're not there, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. They're not going to save themselves. Well, that's kind of, I don't think I'm the parent to all these people, but I'm somebody that's seen some of the lies that come out. And one of the notes I made for myself here today was how can anybody feel loyalty to a country that lies to you about the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, the Oklahoma City bombing? Just lies.
Bigfoot.
We can go on. There's more. There's so much falsehood coming from the government. I tend to doubt whether we really went to the moon anymore.
No, we didn't go.
I have serious doubts. I will not concede that is a fact yet, but I would like to do more investigation before I really say soundly we did or we didn't.
Well, I saw a film today of Kubrick saying in 1999 that it was a fraud.
Yeah, so we have a government, or the people that control the country, that lie to us on a daily basis for whatever, and I'm sure they have their reasons. There's a way to control us. They construct these artificial realities, and we have to deal with those consequences. Look, I think there's a lot of reasons to flee the United States based on this premise, just this premise alone, the fact that we don't have an honest, truthful government. And so, in fact, I wouldn't just say flee, I would say run for your lives, because I think in a short period of time, within my lifetime, which is, I'm 64, so I could go any minute. But within my lifetime, I'm sure that we're going to have a cataclysmic, some kind of social upheaval here. There's going to be maybe short-lived. It may only last a year or two, but it's going to be a dangerous time to be in the United States. And so warning signs that I see out there that people probably are aware of, but they don't put enough importance on. Excuse me, I guess I'm not used to talking this much early in the morning. The economy in the U.S. appears to be in its death throes, and people say, how can you say that? The stock market's near all-time highs. Well, the stock market, technical analysis of the stock market shows the kind of pattern that they had just before the crash that started the Great Depression. It looks really similar to the technical stock market in October of 1929. So don't put a lot of faith in that. It might go on to higher highs, and it might fall to close. Might lose 70, 80, 90% of its value in a really short period of time. Add to this that a lot of the profits that are supporting those prices are really just on paper. They aren't really. They're just like Federal Reserve printing more money. They aren't really based on anybody producing anything of value. They're not. There's no market behind any of those prices. It's just kind of a shadow stat, and people are blindly putting money into things which causes it to go up, and goes up way past its value, and eventually they're going to run out of people willing to buy into this, and the prices will start to drop, and then people will panic and start taking their money out as fast as they can, and we're going to have a real meltdown in the stock market. It's just a bubble at this point, in my opinion. All this money that the Federal Reserve has created out in here had to go somewhere, and it looks like it's gone in the stock market. And those who spotted that early on and rode the thing up, they're probably getting out about now because they know technical analysis, and they see that, oh yeah, this doesn't look good for the future. So they've already protected themselves. They've gotten out, they've gotten their cash, they bought some hard assets with it. They're safe. The people that are left are going to they're the suckers being led to the slaughter. Also, we have government statistics that are just full of misstated things. The jobs report, which is a totally misleading analysis of our economy, saying that we have lots of people working. First of all, if we had 100% employment, that wouldn't mean our economy was in great shape. The Soviet Union, before the years prior to its collapse, always had 100% employment. Their economy was in shambles, and so don't think jobs are an indicator of prosperity, because they aren't. And not only that, but the jobs that they're reporting most of them are part-time jobs. Nobody's working more than 20 or 30 hours a week because of there's other reasons, but I think one of the primary reasons is employers don't want to pay the benefits because their employees aren't worth what they have to pay them per hour for minimum wage, plus all these different benefits that have been mandated by legislation. So they're happy to work them 20 hours a week where they can get away from those extra payroll taxes or those fundings that they have to do. And so we get this misleading figure that we have lots of people employed. Well, we have a lot of people working in minimum wage jobs, working 20 hours a week, and you can't even live unless you're just a single person. You can't live on minimum wage at 40 hours a week. And even then, if you're in the wrong city, you're going to have a hard time. I mean, where I live, you can probably manage, okay, if you got a roommate for your house or something, wherever your apartment, wherever you live. But those government statistics are really misleading, and you can be lulled into a false sense of security by thinking, oh, all is fine, we have low unemployment. Unemployment has nothing to do with the health of your economy. There's been a lot of news recently to people, and you may not have heard anything of it, you may have, you may not have, but the Federal Reserve has been putting all these trial balloons out about possibly raising interest rates 0.25%, and people are scared to death that this will happen. This is how precarious our situation is in our economy. there is so much debt. And by the way, if you don't understand it, if you are a citizen of the United States and you have a Social Security number, you are responsible for that debt. If the hammer drops and this stuff all starts to come about, you may, no matter, even if you don't owe any money to the IRS or anything else, you may not be able to leave or renounce your citizenship without paying a very, very healthy penalty financially. Because the people who own the Federal Reserve, and it's not the government, everybody, it's a private institution owned by foreign banks. These people want to make sure they get paid. So just remember that. They are not nice people either. I'm pretty sure that they were behind the Kennedy assassination. He was coming out with U.S. Treasury bills. They looked like the Federal Reserve notes, only they were they were issued by the U.S. government, and they had different color ink on them. And 7 days after, more than 7 days, he was going to have a press conference. He had already started to distribute them. And he's going to have a press conference announcing the ramifications of this, explaining the financial con job that the Federal Reserve is. And 7 days after that announcement that he was going to have a further press conference, he was assassinated. And it looks like the CIA was in on it. And the person that ran that operation looked like it was none other than George H.W. Bush, number 41. I can't prove that. That's my opinion. But he lied about being in Dallas, and there are pictures of him there. I don't know why he would lie if he didn't have something to hide. If he wasn't in charge of that operation, he was certainly involved in it.
Well, he lied because he was practicing for the White House.
Oh, that's true.
And Kissinger was there with him too.
Goals. He wanted to continue to go up on that. But anyway, another economic thing out there that I think is I want to finish up on this interest rate, why it's important. I'm sorry, I got off on something else. The amount of money that is owed to in other words, our debt, which at this time is close to $20 trillion. Just a 1% rise in interest would mean you'd have an extra $200 billion in budget-busting expenses. If interest rates were allowed to float to a market level, they would probably be up somewhere around 6 to 8%. That would be $1.6 trillion annually just to pay interest on a budget that is already going $1 trillion in debt further in debt every year. This would be the collapse of the dollar. So raising interest rates 0.25%, that's what's got people scared shitless. And they realize that the money train is about to end. And it's going to be, if they ever do start to raise interest rates, then you better start packing your bags, getting all your stuff in order, and find a place to be, because I could say after 18 months to 36 months after this happens, this is not going to be a fun place to be. Just to bring this home a little bit, there's a lot of people in this country own guns, and they're not all nice people. I'll just leave it at that. U.S. dollar, even though we're living kind of above our means due to the fact that the U.S. dollar is it's the world trade currency. Every transaction has I don't know exactly. I can't remember who said this, but it's a famous economist who said half of every transaction is money, and the U.S. dollar is the trade currency that everybody uses to exchange whatever they exchange. So it is in demand way past where it should be due to our financial situation in this country, just because of the fact that it's a world trade currency. Just recently, China was approved by International Monetary, whatever it is called, the IMF Foundation or Federation, whatever it is.
International Monetary Fund.
Yeah, they were approved by them as an alternate trade currency. So they have reached approved trade status as an international currency, and the Chinese, I think they call it the yuan or the won. it is probably going to take over because they have plans to announce that they're going to back their currency with gold. And they've been buying gold. They've been buying up to 80% of all the gold that's mined in the world for several years. So they have been accumulating gold left and right. And they've been trying to exchange U.S. Treasury bills for gold or get currency to buy more gold, which is part of the reasons that our economy is weakening, but just a very small, it's kind of like piling on. But anyway, those are things that I'm really worried about, afraid of. That's why I have plans for a bug out location. I'm not going to reveal it here on this show or any other shows, because I want to be by myself. I don't want to be hunted down. Not that they would do that, but they have in the past. Once you have this Social Security number or whatever, you belong to them. And those of you who are Christians out there, you need to believe that the Social Security is the mark of the beast. And after seeing what the central banking industry is capable of, I have put a lot more credence in that than I ever used to before. So anyway, that's in a nutshell kind of some of the reasons why people might want to leave. And then there's a lot of indications that they're getting ready to kind of, or maybe they've already pulled the trigger on trying to make things accelerate this collapse, which is going to happen anyway, but they want it to happen sooner instead of later, because there might be some people that can, ride into the rescue and save us from oblivion. There might be some kind of charismatic political leader and I don't mean Donald Trump. He's a fascist. But somebody who actually believes in freedom and understands economics and could, bring us, because there's still a lot of fundamentally sound parts of the American economy that could, any collapse, I believe, would be pretty short-lived, and we continue to produce things, we'll come out of it pretty quickly. But if we have a lot of social unrest and a lot of destruction of infrastructure or whatever, it could really seriously damage our ability to produce goods and services that we can use to exchange for other things. So there's a lot of there's just every day the news is full of stuff. It's not just mass shootings. I heard this yesterday on Alex Jones' show that there's students in a college in Pennsylvania that want to change the name of this hall. It's named after a man named Lynch, who's one of the founders of the college. It's Lynch Hall, and they want to remove that because it makes black students feel uneasy and unsafe. And I go, wow, this is unbelievable. They don't believe that Lynch can be a name, that Lynch can mean has a lot of meanings. It doesn't mean, it's kind of slang that got adopted into our languages, meaning you get strung up on a tree and hung. But I don't know. I recall the words of Samuel Adams. He said this in 1765. This is well before our revolution. He says, "How strangely will the tools of a tyrant pervert the plain meaning of words." How strangely will the tools of a tyrant pervert the plain meaning of words. That's going on all over the place. That gender has no meaning anymore. We have Bruce Jenner to thank for enlightening us on that. There's so many words that you really can't say in an open company or a polite company, whatever, without offending somebody. It's not just some of them are so weird. They escape, and I wanted to make a list of it. I didn't want to distract from the whole meaning of the show. So that could be a whole other show, just how things are going. But 95% of the news that we get through TV, radio, newspaper is produced and published and put out there by the same 5 corporations. And they aren't in charge of stuff, but the people in charge of stuff control those people with an iron fist. Rupert Murdoch started to get a little bit out of hand, and they just came down on him like a sledgehammer. There was a guy in the International Monetary Fund, or somebody in Europe who was part of the central banking community, and he started to say some things that they didn't like him saying. He came to New York. He got framed for supposedly raping a maid, and then and this is a guy worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Why would he want to rape a maid? He could buy any prostitute he wanted. And it's just he was set out, framed, forced to resign, and whatever. They did that because they wanted him out of their structure because he had a dissenting view. And so our educational system's been just destroyed, so that people can get into college with a heartbeat. You don't have to be qualified or be learned or actually know anything. The entrance requirements into college today are so low it's embarrassing. I don't think there's much hope for somebody racing out of on that. Excuse me, that noise might be my clipboard rattling. I'm sorry. I should put it down. I don't think there's a lot of hope in the current youth generation that's in school, is one of my points. I just don't think that we should hold out and say that's where the thing, let's pour a bunch of money into this, because that's just another way to further indebt us. If you really want to help save things, you should be teaching your children how to be productive, and I don't mean for somebody else's sake, I mean for their own sake, how to grow their own food, how to make stuff, how to build stuff, how to repair stuff. They're going to need those skills in the near future. They're certainly not going to need much of what they're learning in college. There are exceptions to that. We probably need brain surgeons and nuclear physicists and all that, but I think those people have long been poached by the ruling elites, and they brainwash them and get them to work for them. And kind of the point of all this is to say that the American dream that was there when I was born has been snatched from us. It's gone. It is so hard to start a business today that I am just in awe of anybody who's able to start a business and be successful. I have so much respect for those people. Because it is extremely difficult. There's so many laws, regulations, requirements that you have to adhere to. You have to hire lawyers to make sure you don't commit a felony in starting a business. I think that there's a lot of opportunity in other places. I guess is the point of all this. We are no longer the freest economy in the world. We're not even close. I doubt we're still in the top 40. There are different measurements I see out there. Some of us have us as high as 18. But if you take away the Second Amendment, which is under attack, there isn't a single metric out there in the world that would put us in the top 40 of free economies. The Second Amendment is the only thing that gives us any, and that shows you why it's under such attack right now, because this country is being attacked from all corners, everything but militarily, because they know that we are really well armed. So they're attacking us from within. They're attacking us economically in every way they can think of, and these attacks, they're making it very, very difficult for us. Part of the attack is to make it very difficult to be productive, to produce wealth, to enrich your nation, your country by enriching yourself, and to all those things that made America great. Most of those things happened in the 19th century, by the way. The 20th century has brought us a lot of wonderful products and innovations and things, but the wealth being created in the 19th century has never been matched. The Industrial Revolution just created something out of nothing in this country by the hard work and the sweat and the innovation of the people that were creating wealth. And that we haven't been able to equal that. Again, we have the illusion of creating wealth because the Federal Reserve keeps printing all this money, and we have when I was a youngster in fourth grade, I remember my teacher writing up on the board $1 million and said, if you had $1 million, you'd never have to work another day in your life. He said, $1 million, you could get 4% interest on that in a savings account, and you could easily live on $40,000 a year, and you could. I mean, you'd be really rich. Because my mom and dad, I mean, they were making like $10 grand a year. I thought, wow, 40,000, that's a lot of money. But we all laugh at that now. You can almost make that much on minimum wage. But you can't buy anything. The Federal Reserve has destroyed 98% of the value of our money in 100 years. It's quite an accomplishment. That's how long we've been under attack. So anyway, presently there are an increasing number of people that are choosing to leave the United States, expatriate to another location. Some of them are going there because they're retired. They can get more bang for their buck in a place where there's a lower cost of living. And so in the past, they used to go to places like Florida. Now they go to places like Ecuador, Belize. There's several places around the world where the cost of living is really quite reasonable. I mean, I think you can live in Belize for $20 a day. And you can eat really well. You can live in a kind of a rundown place, but it's livable. And so people that are making, they get maybe a $1,400 Social Security check, they can live pretty well on a place like Ecuador. It wouldn't be my choice to go if you were young and wanted to go out there and make your mark in the world, because it's kind of got a lot of the same economic problems the United States does. It's got a big government controlling everything, and it's kind of a socialist hellhole in that respect. But I like the culture there. There's a lot of things to do. It wouldn't be the worst place you could pick. There's a lot of people that want to leave because they want to get out from under this authoritarian thumb that our government represents. Some of them are kind of, I'll just call them voluntarists, because the word anarchist has been perverted not to mean what it means. But they just want to live somewhere where they can produce something, exchange it for what it's worth, and go on with their living. And whether it's money or other products that they exchange it for, they don't want somebody claiming a share of what they produce. I'm going to have on a future, I hope this is going to come about, I'm going to have on a young man who's not that young, I think he's about 40. He moved to Costa Rica several years ago, and he bought a farm there. Actually, I think it was over 10 years ago, maybe 15. And he's been developing this farm, and he's produces everything he needs in about 4 hours a day. And that includes the crops that he sells for cash to buy the things he can't produce and everything else. And he says this is paradise. I live a fairly simple life, but it's a good life. And I want to have him on our show, because he's really is a smart guy, and he really understands the economics of what's going on. But there are people that lead for that reason. There are people who are really, really, really super rich. I'm not one of those guys, but that would be like Jeff Berwick, who's been on our show a couple times. Simon Black is the sovereign man. They go out in the world and they see all these opportunities from different places, and they figure out ways to avoid taxation by kind of being a perpetual traveler lifestyle. They don't actually have a citizenship in any particular country, but they have passports that allow them to go from place to place as long as they move along every 90 days. Well, they don't have any problem leaving where they have their home or permanent residence, because they go on speaking tours, they go to look for other places to invest. They have lots of opportunities like that. Those kinds of people have been leaving the United States for 40 years because they realize that there's a whole world out there, and they have talents and finances that can get things done that these countries that are developing really need. And so they welcome them with open arms, because it's a win-win. It gives their citizens a better quality of life, and it provides some prosperity that wouldn't otherwise be there. And so there's also people that are middle-class people that just want to They just want to go somewhere where you can go out on the beach and drink a beer. I mean, I can't believe it, how we get used to all these different regulations of this hectoring that our government does on us. The last time I was in Mexico, we were in Playa del Carmen, which is a delightful tourist area. I could even live there. I wouldn't say that of very many tourist areas, but it's a pretty nice place. And we were sitting at a bar that was on the beach, enjoying some drinks, some adult drinks, and there was a table that was kind of a little ways out onto the beach a little bit. I'm not sure that it was still considered the property of the bar where it was, but nobody seemed to matter or care. And we were just enjoying the music. There was a band playing live music, and it was really great. The drinks were inexpensive, and we were just having a great time. And suddenly some guys came out, and they had like a little Maddox, which is kind of like a little hoe, and they were digging a ditch with it, and about 4 or 5 inches deep. And they dug this ditch in the sand. Didn't take them very long. The sand's easy to dig a ditch in. And they dug it out to the table, and then they laid an extension cord in that ditch and covered it up with sand. And I said, "Oh, they're gonna be doing something out there by that table, and it requires electricity." He says this would be highly illegal in America. And they come out a little later, and they put a couple poles, and they drove them down in the sand with a stake driver, and then they stretched a white sheet around them and pinned them off, and then they put some lights on the sheet so that it was getting dust then. And so one part of it would be green, and they had it was the colors of the Mexican flag, what it turned out to be. And that was it looked really nice, and it shielded off the table from all the people that were at the bar. No one could see who was there. And then this really nicely dressed man and woman appeared about 10 minutes after that, and they walked out they kicked off their shoes and walked out onto the beach, and they were like in a suit and a really nice evening dress, walking barefoot out in the sand, sit down, and they bring out a bottle of champagne and serve them. We can't see them serving them, but I'm wild since you bring a bottle of champagne out there. And I'm thinking, none of this would be legal in the United States. You get so used to it, you just accept the fact that you're being. I mean, what harm is this to anybody else? But in Mexico, they don't have those kind of laws. You don't need a law if there's no victim. It's kind of their thinking, which I agree with completely. So there are a lot of places in the world, and I wouldn't say Mexico is by any means a really free place, but I think it has a lot of things about it that are freer than in the United States. And we just somebody wrote a book a while ago that said it's called 3 Felonies a Day, and it was just about his experiences of trying to go through the legal code, which is so immense. I don't think a person could read it in their lifetime anymore. It's impossible for any one single person to know all the things that are in the U.S. legal code. So these laws, even the people that enforce them can't know them all. But if they find these laws, they can use them to selectively enforce against people who are maybe getting out of line a little bit. And they can find some quirk in the law, and they can put somebody in prison. Like recently, Dinesh D'Souza came out with a movie that was pretty unflattering to Barack Obama, and he was coming out to a sequel to it that's going to be released. And lo and behold, they found some obscure election reform law that he hadn't complied with and put him in jail. Well, that's sad. And now we have people talking about no-fly lists and denying gun ownership to people who've been put on a no-fly list. Do you know that you can be put on a no-fly list? You don't even know you're on a no-fly list. You can't know who put you on the list. Can't know why they put you on the list. And you can just be planning a trip and go to the airport, and they say, "I'm sorry, we can't board you on the plane." And you will never know why that happened. But now you'll know that you can't buy a gun. And it's like a conviction without a trial. There's no way to defend yourself or something like that. So there's a lot of reasons why people might want to leave. Now, as for the technical aspects of it, go to page 2 here. this is the part that I am still learning, and so I know that there's hoops you have to jump through. I would tell you this: if you are thinking that you may not be planning to do something like this right now, but if you're thinking that you may want to sometime in the future or would like to have that ability to do it in the future, I think the first thing you want to do is to make sure you have a U.S. passport. The second thing is you might want to look into the possibility of getting a second passport, and you may have ancestry that came from, let's see, I think right now if you have ancestors that arrived from certain nations in Europe, I think Poland is one of them, Italy is one of them. I'm sure that there's more than that, but you should look into it. If you look into your family heritage, and if it isn't too many generations, you may be able to get a citizenship requirement waived from those countries and have a passport to go back and forth and visit relatives in there. You can. There's also people in the United States who have recently immigrated from other countries that have dual citizenship. If you marry one of those people, you can become a citizen of their country as well. I used to have a jewelry store. One of the people who worked for me was a Swiss goldsmith, and she was just amazing. A local guy married her, so she decided she would stay here in this area, and now he has the ability to travel with a Swiss passport because of his marriage to a Swiss citizen. So that can come in handy if you're traveling to maybe, let's say, a Middle Eastern country where you may not want to be known as an American. You may also want to start learning a foreign language. If you pick out a place where you think you might want to live, this would be a good time to start learning their language, at least enough so that you can, do some basic communications about where's the bathroom and stuff like that, and be able to understand their directions when they tell you. And then just living there and trying to interact and speak with people, you'll probably have your vocabulary will grow very quickly. My wife is from Poland, and she came here. She spoke passable English, but she speaks English very well now. She does really well. It's only been 7 years, and she speaks English better than my sister-in-law from the Philippines, who's been here 30 plus years. So don't worry about that so much, but you should start learning a language, another language, a second one, especially if you have a chance to go to a country and get a citizenship in that country, and a second citizenship so you can use their passports. Leaving the United States, as I stated, is not the easiest thing in the world to do. There's beginning January 1st, 2016, and that's just weeks away, the IRS is going to enact legislation that was passed earlier in 2015, where if they claim you owe them $50,000, they don't have to prove it. They just have to claim it. If they claim that you owe them in excess of $50,000 in taxes, interest, and penalties, they can prevent you from flying out of the country. And I believe that the way it's written, it could be interpreted they could prevent you from flying within the country. They could eventually prevent you from traveling by car. That's pretty scary. And I don't, that's just something that you want to make sure that you don't make any mistakes on your taxes. You might want to pay a little extra money, have a tax preparer do it, make sure you're safe in that respect if you plan to leave in the near future. I don't know. So far, I've painted a pretty bleak picture, and I want everybody to be aware. This is my opinion, and there aren't facts. I mean, there's facts that I base my opinions on, but they aren't necessarily giving me a crystal ball into the future. Things can be a lot different than what I think they might be. I'm just trying to, I was a Boy Scout as a young person, and so it's one of the mottos is be prepared. And so I'm just trying to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that all this tyranny that we are experiencing didn't happen overnight. It was kind of like the camel's nose under the tent. It just gradually, they just got one thing after another, and we just accept. Once we'd accept one thing, they'd roll in the next, and then we'd accept that, and they'd roll in the next. Well, taking these things down isn't going to be easy, and it isn't going to be fast. And if we go the slow route of just trying to change the way people think, it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. That's why I think that the collapse of everything is probably the best way for things to play out, because that will destroy all these things in people's minds. They'll realize that this was all a lie. And I've been in places where they've had this collapse happen. I visited Poland many times when I was, before I married my wife. And, I wouldn't say it's a terribly prosperous place even today. It's better than it was. But everything that they had been told, believed, whatever, all that propaganda it was destroyed in a blink of an eye. And it was pretty much in upheaval for, I would say, a little over a year. And then things started getting a little better, and people settled down. They went back to growing food, and because of the free market reforms they adopted, a lot of foreign investment started flooding into the country, and they recovered. And I think that is probably what will happen in the United States. There is a lot of infrastructure still here that I think will lead to a quick recovery. So I don't want people to think there's just no hope. And worst case scenario, if you pick out a place as a bug out location, you purchase some property, you have a vacation house you can always go to and visit in a nice place. So I don't know. I guess I could take some questions. I wanted to end the thing with some talking about the four flag theory and maybe some other suggestions for people to start looking at answers for themselves. But if there are any questions out there?
Okay, yeah, hey, thanks. I have some questions, and I will field questions now from UCY.TV chat and side by side over here with Relocate Media. There was a lot of stuff that's been scrolled past, so hey, if you guys will repost your questions now. And welcome everybody listening. Hans is Dietrich, as Dan B. Cooper at UCY has joined us. Thanks for coming on the end here. Very puzzled. Guest from the big puzzle is here. We've got that Real Liberty Media. We've got Asmo, Barman, Beth C, Grimner, Keith, IB, Don C, our good friend Java Doctor too, good friend UCY.TV, Wanataco, Beetle. Let's see, Oslo, very puzzled. Thanks, Barry Prince, big puzzle. And we have some anonymous chatters over here, as well as myself 2 times, Vince 2, and WTRLM Vince UCY. So welcome to me and the other me and all of you. And over here at UCY, we have some chatters I know are listening now. So just to shout out everybody at UCY, Captain Gringo, Earth Defense Force, JJE, another one of my heroes, love you, brother. Joe Friday, Jules, you are right there at the top of my heroes too. Love so much what you do, and I really appreciate it. She has provided such an amazing platform and brought together so many great voices. Things could never be enough for what you've done, Jules. Mama Delight, a Canuckistanian, regular here. Tomato, Miguel, SLC, Travel, Victory Food Vegetables, with their friends, thank you, welcome. And looks like I'm over here at UCY.TV about 3 times. 2 of me are anyways. There are many needs. Now, if you guys will, if you've got some questions, let's see if I can recall what it was I was going to ask you. I'd like to know about if you're wanting to leave this country and you don't have a passport, what would happen if somebody just decided to go all reverse wetback on them and go down to Mexico or another country and escape perhaps through the southern border? Now, personally, before you answer that question, I think when the shift happens, I would sure hate to be anywhere but where I'm at in the hills of Arkansas and Ozark Mountains. Go with what you know sometimes. Do you find that there would be any safety issues being a gringo down somewhere else, like Mexico or Central or South American country?
Well, about 120 years ago, there wasn't such a thing as a passport. Everybody traveled around the world freely, and they didn't have a passport system. I think that was one of the things they set up so they could start to control people. I'd like to think that you could just go across the border and go into another. I mean, it used to be that way between the United States and Canada. You could just go up there and just show them your U.S. driver's license, and they just wave you through. They didn't really care. But mainly because of the U.S. war on terror, they started clamping down on Canadians, and the Canadians retaliated by making it harder for Americans to go into Canada. And all this stuff is just, it's like towel snapping in the gym, in the locker room or something. It's childish behavior by adults. But I wouldn't tell anybody to go somewhere without a passport. I think that you're just asking for trouble. I don't really believe in it, the whole thing about it, but I don't think that's the mountain I want to sacrifice my life on. I think I pick a different battle than the passport one. I think that's one. Maybe we can roll that one back a decade or two down the road. But I think it's important that you have more than one. And the reason for that is if you do find a place where you're comfortable, you like it, and whatever, and you want to stay there, you probably will want to, at some time in the future, renounce your U.S. citizenship and turn in your passport, because there are so many forms that you have to fill out, and some of them you just fill out and answer saying yes or no, but if you don't send that in, it's like a $10,000 fine. And then they have interest and penalties on that, so you can get up to your $50,000 in no time, and you didn't even know you were supposed to file this simple form, where you just had to answer a question, yes or no. You better be aware of all those tax things. As long as the United States has the ability to come out and put out extradition papers on you for tax evasion, because you didn't file a form, and not because you didn't file tax. That's it. Now, you want to pick out your second passport. You want to pick out a country that doesn't tax you on the income you make outside its borders. The United States does tax you on the income they make outside its borders. You do have quite a high level that you have to exceed before they start to take taxes out of it. And so I don't think it's going to be a concern for most of the people. But if you're a big-time developer and you've got some large investment capital and you're going to be putting in they're putting a road through this area and this would be a beautiful place for a vacation resort, and you want to build that, and suddenly this thing, you're making millions of dollars. Well, you're going to be taxed by that country that you're in, and you're also going to be taxed by the United States. And they don't care if you pay more taxes than you earned. They really don't. So it's really important that you choose your countries carefully. And I got this. Actually, I have to turn around and look at a book to get his name, so I can remember his name. Doug Casey is the first person that I heard this from. I don't think he takes credit for inventing this. I think he got it from someone else as well. But he uses a four flags theory. He says you should have a flag in the country where you live. That's one flag. And your second flag should be the country where you make money. And that'd be either possibly as an investment, or you might travel there to work online occasionally. And you might also work where you live, but you record your income in that country. And that would be the one that would have the best tax situation for you. And then you have a passport from a third country. And here I made a note, 2 passports are better than 1. But you have a passport from a third country that gives you the freedom to if one of them turns bad, you have a second one you can fall back on. You can, for whatever. And then you want to do your banking in a fourth country, because you don't want to have any of these countries have control of your assets. What happened in the tiny island nation in the Mediterranean? They closed the banks for a couple months, and they had a bail-in where the people that had deposits over $200,000 lost upwards of 50% of the money. So don't think that couldn't happen here. Don't think that they couldn't just say the show I had 2 weeks ago that was repeated last night on UCY-TV is about Marie Curie, and part of the show I was talking about Linus Pauling, who was one of the other few people to win more than 1 Nobel Prize. And I was saying that he would have equaled her accomplishment and actually been discovered the structure of DNA before Watson and Crick did in England, but he was prohibited from leaving the United States. He was basically a prison inmate in the United States. He could not leave because they thought, because he had been protesting open-air testing of nuclear weapons, which nobody today would think that would be a good idea, but at the time, they thought he was a communist because he was a scientist trying to raise the alarm bells that this was not a good idea. This was going to kill people and this was going to seriously injure people's health and everything else. But because he was protesting against that, they denied him a passport and they wouldn't let him leave. So they can arbitrarily deny you at any time. They've already established that precedent. They've done it many times with many people. So having a second passport from another country is really not a bad idea at all. Being able to leave on another passport is a good insurance policy. So
no,
a long answer to a short question.
Yeah, and for sure, with me over here doing production at the same time, I missed a lot of what you said. So this will definitely be a re-listen for me. Now, filming from Real Liberty Media Chat from listener now, World Citizen Passport. What can you tell us about that? And also, before you answer, so I've got it. Let me get a sound check here from you, Grimmer. How is my sound quality any better? I've got another headset here. So yeah, my sound quality is really bad. So hopefully this one's better. So with that, let me hand that question back to you, and I'll wait for the answer and chat from Grimmer. Thank you, Grimmer, for providing.
I have no knowledge of a world citizen passport. I think there are people who travel on visas, or they come from countries where there are other places they can travel without extensive verification, whatever. I don't think that's a good way to go. I think it's better to have something from an established country. There's lots of ways you can do it inexpensively. I think you could probably work something out. If you're a young person and you aren't doing anything right now, you could do something as a Peace Corps volunteer in another country, and by doing that, you'll learn the language really well. You may or may not like the country you're in, but if you pick one where they speak Spanish, they would open up a lot of countries to you. You'll be able to learn their history and culture and things like this. And I bet you at the end of that, you could apply for a dual citizenship in that country. Or you may find if you're single, you may find some lovely young lady, if you're a guy, that you might want to marry. And I actually had a college friend that did that. Now is a dual citizenship, United States and Slovakia. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Just try and let your imagination be your guide. I think I would stick to the easy, safe ways first before you start going out there on the things that are out of line. I know that if you have a lot of money, you can always buy a passport too. There's countries in the Caribbean that's their main source of income is selling passports.
Okay. Thanks for the link. As a matter of fact, I found this simultaneously from the anonymous chatter of Real Liberty Media. This is World Governments of World Citizens, and this is on what countries that have accepted the world passport. The following countries are Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, America, Samoa, Angola, and here's one I don't know, Antigua, Argentina, Armenia, Aruba, Australia, Austria, Burkina Faso, I don't know that one either, Bahamas, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Barbados, Belarus, Belgium, Belize, Benin, Bermuda, Bolivia, Bonaire, Botswana, Brazil, I'm scrolling, lost my place, I got Bangladesh, Barbados, really did. There we go. British Virgin Islands, Bulgaria, Burundi, Cambodia, Cameroon, Canada, Cape Verde, Cayman Islands, Central African Republic, scroll, Chad, Chile, China, Colombia, Congo.
That's a great list. There are even a few places that I think would be interesting to go and explore as I know some of them are real backwaters, but they've got tremendous investment potential there. They'd be a good place to earn your money as one of your four flags. And so there may be some value in that. I guess that would be something worth looking into if you're interested.
Now, there is 184 on that list. I dropped that over to UCY.TV in chat, and I'm going to bring it over to World Truth and post it there. So the last one is Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia.
Zimbabwe wouldn't be one of the places I'd recommend.
No, not at all.
There are a lot of them on there that were, that even they may be in a similar economic situation in Zimbabwe, but they have a freer government and a chance to develop something there. You never know. So.
That's not a valid one. Why not? I'll just post it in a comment.
You guys are making me so homesick.
Yeah, we have actual flashes in Denmark, an American in Denmark.
Well, yeah, they own my paperwork. Yeah. My true owners.
Yeah, it is an ownership, isn't it? I guess
all the passport is a work permit.
Work permit?
Basically, they want to check. If I want to work here, they want to know all about it. It's a work permit. Otherwise, they don't care what I do.
Okay, so here, I'm going to grab this other link. I actually, it was at the same site, but a different page.
Did you put it up?
Yeah, I'm going to now. I wouldn't take it as a postable link. Let me first of all, I'm going to try and make a comment on World Truth. So there it is. Yeah, it looks like it's clickable. It's not copy and paste to your search engine. And is that World Service? Yeah, this is www.worldservice.org/docpass.html. One of these days, I'd like to get a show on actual explanations of all the ins and outs of migrating about the internet news.
I also had another thought here that might be interesting to a few people. One of my friends here at Medford is he left Poland as a political asylum seeker and was able to come to the United States. He's a physics professor. And apparently he did something, or he offended somebody in the apparatchik, and his career as a physics professor in Poland was over, so he sought asylum and was granted it. And when they left, he actually sewed money into the soles of his shoes because that is the only way they could take any money out of the country. The person who is the advisor for our Homeland Security is the former head of the East German Stasi. These are not things that make me comfortable with our, the way things are. And so one of the things people might do in order to give them an ability to be able to move their money from country to country without it being taken by our benevolent government is they might want to look into Bitcoin as well. Once you have the Bitcoin, you can put it in a thumb drive or whatever, you carry it, or you can just transfer it to another location electronically, and it's very easy. There's so many thieves in the TSA that they're looking for a way to steal something that you have, and you try to take gold or silver out of the country, you take that risk, they'll just confiscate it. I know you can't take more than $10,000 worth of gold out of the country without some kind of a really tight scrutiny. I think that's something you shouldn't be doing. I don't know why, but I guess they have a reason. So I would tell people to look into Bitcoin also. It's a way to, and that's kind of in that fourth flag there, is find a place where you can bank with your money, and that's a way you can just put it in the I guess it's everywhere. It's in the the www world of banking, and it's just a virtual banking, and it may be as safe as any place on earth. So.
Hey, Beetle, this is Ben speaking right here, the one in the bucket, I guess. Remember, I was scrolling down the Real Liberty Mini page. It used to be the Doge's War coin that you have sponsored, I guess. And I'm not seeing it. If you'll post this a link there, then see that. Let me see what we've got written here from Joe Friday. Then they found a cocktail of specially chosen molecules to use. I think this might be something else that keeps up with THC. Aspartame, yeah, one of those. I guess not the topic. But, interesting nonetheless. That's from Tomato in response to this one. So, now let's talk about a little bit of freedoms. And in Oregon, now you have a liquor store, and that's state-owned, just like, say, in Utah, and I think there's some places back east that...
I think Montana is also as well. There's quite a few. I think there's 17, we call them control states.
That's 17 of them, wow. And that's kind of where we're headed with the legalization of camp business.
Now, Oregon also has legal dispensaries now. So we're
I kind of, and we've got.
They're run by the same organization that runs the liquor. That's how it goes. And the price is reflecting in that. They want a lot of tax revenues from this, so it's a tax scam thing.
No problem, Doug. I got distracted there. I thought it was slow. So we have some listeners up there. There's quite a bit of people involved as listeners and contributors in the chat at EXILED.TV and your part of the world. Also, Real Liberty Media, Cowboy. And so, yeah, Mike, he's there in Oregon, and a few others. And when I finally get out there, my things are kind of playing a little bit and maybe reroute. And I was trying to get through Denver to see Nathan Frazier. And be him for my first on-road interview, but I've not got that set up yet. But anyways, a lot of great folks in your area that I look forward to meeting. Minor Day, you, Drew, Hal Anthony, the folks out in the Sugar Pine Mine, the Hammonds. Of course, I was at the Bundys, and they are supporting the Hammonds now. Can you tell us some about that? Let's go off topic to expatriation, and wondering why one would choose to leave the country, and I'd say certainly that would be one of them. Is the dominance of governments over part of our lives. So, would you like to speak on any of these issues from the Bundys to the Hammonds there in your part of the world?
Well, I know a little bit about the Hammonds. Not as much as I should. They live in a part of Oregon that is not the one you see pictures of all the time. You know, the green trees and the mountains and the rivers. So they live out in areas, basically a high mountain desert. It's not very densely populated. It's suitable for ranching if you can get grazing rights on the. It's actually the publicly owned land that is administered by the BLM. And if you have grazing rights and whatever, they pretty much treat it as though it's their land, although because it's commonly owned, there's some conflict that arises from time to time over how many cows a certain person should be able to graze and all that sort of thing. And that the BLM, I think, tries to ramp those up a little bit more so they can get themselves more authority over what people can do and can't do, and they end up making so many regulations that it runs a lot of these people out of business. Well, the Hammonds had a pretty good situation. They had grazing rights, and I think these were purchased from, I don't know how many times they've been sold and purchased, but it's like any other property, right? It's like owning a house. You can buy it, you can sell it. Those rights were the same way. And these rights gave them the ability to take care of this property, that land, the grazing area, and to do the things to maintain it as a resource for the cattle that they were running on. And one of the things they would do from time to time when they would get infestations of bugs, animals, ticks, whatever, other kinds of species of plants that would be taking the water that the grasses that the cattle would feed on, so that would reduce the amount of nutrition available to cattle. What they would do is that towards the end of the grazing season, they would periodically, I would say maybe every 3 to 5 years, they would light fires and just burn the stuff. It would get rid of a lot of the insects. It would burn a lot of the non-wanted species of plants out, and it would provide the ashes from those plants would put mineral back into the soil when they get the snows and rains in the winter, and the grasses that would grow back in the spring would be a lot healthier and provide better nutrition for cattle. Well, apparently they lit a fire without getting proper authorization from BLM, and the BLM really didn't like it. They gave them it was a pretty harsh penalty, and they just didn't think the BLM had the authority to do that, so they did it again a few years later, and they actually brought them up on terrorism charges, and the oldest member of that family is now looking at a life sentence in prison. It's not meted out as a life sentence, but he's 77 years old and he's facing 10 years in prison. I doubt he'll live 10 years in prison. So that's pretty sick, I think, and I have very little to say in support for the government position on this. I think because it's a government institution bringing charges, it gets tried in a government court, which they own the court, and they have a 99% conviction rate. They label you a terrorist by some kind of because the Patriot Act was written to enforce unjust laws on Americans, not to get rid of terrorists in our midst, but to clamp down, put the handcuffs on all the people in the United States. I don't know, if I was the Hammonds, I'd be selling my farm and trying to find some good property, maybe in the high deserts of Mexico where you could raise cattle, and they certainly are good animal husbandryers. They know what they're doing. I'm sure Mexico would welcome them for the jobs they provide and the income for their governments and stuff. I don't think they've had any trouble getting a visa for their whole family, work visas, and if they lived there 2 years, they'd probably qualify for citizenship, and they could renounce their American citizenship. But I think now that they've been convicted, they probably won't be allowed to leave. Because
what?
I think it's because they probably will find ways to make it seem that they owe the government money.
Yeah, one tax bill.
A huge tax bill for selling their farm.
Yeah. No, I don't want to hold you up. I know that you're talking about an hour, but if you'd like to stick around to the second hour, that'd be great. But if you got to go,
I can't. I just needed to know so I could send a message to my store.
Okay, all right. I'm very proud to have you, Jeff. You're one of the folks that I listen to on a regular basis every week, and I really enjoy your work. So, for the listeners, this is Chuck Horton of Double Cross Radio. Use your search engine, and you can find out more information there. He broadcasts Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern with Double Cross Radio at EXILED.
I think it's 10 Eastern. It's 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
You know what? I always cross my time, but sorry about that.
You also have to say this: if you're a listener that's heard some of the shows in the last couple of months, some of them I haven't had time to do adequate research. This new business that I came out of retirement to do, it's just taking a little bit more of my time than I thought it would. And but I think I'll be back. I have a long list of shows I want to do, and some of them require more research than I have time to do. So.
You know what?
I really like the show I did on Marie Curie. That was a great show. If you guys, you can go look at that in the archives. I felt so good at the end of that show. I learned a lot by researching her life. That was an amazing story. She's certainly a fabulous person.
Now, listen, that was a replay again last night from your broadcast. And I'm going to go grab the link at YouTube. Oh, you know what? Thanks for Marietta Meet the Management here at WorldTruth.org. So let me just go search UCY. Actually, right here is UCY. It's one of our favorite pages. WorldTruth.org on YouTube. We're starting to build that up over there. So I'll invite anybody to come on over there and subscribe, and as we build that, and as I start my work there also in adding. So UCY is one of our favorite pages here, and I'm going to.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Jules. She has, I think she gets a small trickle of income from this. This isn't much.
No, it's out of pocket for her.
It probably doesn't even pay for the bandwidth, the income she gets. And she allows these. She has this time available for people to get on there, and this has done so much for me to keep my sanity, I think, because I'm able to. I imagine I'm talking to thousands of people. I'm probably talking to tens to 20s, but it's really. It's good to be able to get these things off my chest and go on to the next thinking process, and you just. There, I've said it. It's there. If anybody wants to hear my opinion, they can go look it up. And so I can kind of finish. I was in a circle. I was just thinking the same things over and over and over and over again. And this really allowed me to expand my thinking a lot. And I owe it all to Jules. My friendship with Drew and David. That was. By the way, David. He was one of the original founders of the Double Cross Radio, along with Drew and myself. He's working on a new project with Adam Kokesh, and that's really exciting. He's also he was one of the winners of one of Alex Jones' film contests. So he's been doing great things. And Drew is doing awesome stuff with his aquaponics business, and I think he continues to be a real strong voice for freedom. This is probably the closest mind to the way I think I've ever met in my life. Don't think I'll ever have a better friend.
Yeah, I'll love him as well. Okay, Jules deleted the video since it was a replay from last night, and
it's still there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna back up. Can you give me was it 11/26 of 2015? That you had the show got that.
No, I think it was yesterday was the 10th, so it would be the 3rd of December was the one.
Okay, it was last week's episode then.
Yeah, and they replayed it last night.
Yeah, okay, great.
The other one was a condensed version of the 2-hour Thanksgiving show I did when we still had a 2-hour show, and it just didn't fit in the time things anymore, so I redid it. I took a lot of stuff out, obviously, and just put in what I thought were the most important aspects of the. There's a lot to learn from the Pilgrims' story. It's they left the church, and they still were very much believers in God, and they tried briefly to change it, to purify it, to reform it. And they were unsuccessful, so they thought we just have to let this go. We have to form our church where we can practice our religion the way we believe it should be. And they were persecuted for it. But not everybody of their agreed to leave. Some of them stayed and still tried to purify the church, and they were called the Puritans. The Pilgrims were the ones that left. And when you're talking about whether you want to expatriate or want to stay, it was kind of that same choice you have to make that the Pilgrims and the Puritans had to make. Do you want to stay and try and fix it from within, which I think is impossible, or do you want to leave and create a new center of the kind of thinking and political, economic, society the way you think it should be constructed, and be a model for everybody else to copy instead of trying to change something that's totally been corrupted. And so that's why I think I've made my decision, and I'm probably going to leave at some point in time in the future. I don't know when. I still haven't finished getting all my affairs in order. I went and complicated my life by buying a liquor store. But I think that's
or
going to...
renting it, actually, I guess.
Renting, yeah. But it's going to be... I think this is going to allow me to have the capital to finish out all the other things I need to do. So it's actually going to hasten my departure.
Now, I posted to UCY.TV and the Relocate media chat the link for that show that which was last night and the week before, and that'll bring you to the playlist right there at UCY.TV. And the week before then we'll do the Thanksgiving special. And if you've not heard that, I invite you to listen. And all kinds of other great shows right there. Now, from Joe at UCY.TV and chat, he says, we have arrived at a point where citizens of many foreign countries have more freedoms than Americans. At least most foreign citizens can work, conduct business, and open bank accounts outside the nation without interference. Americans are restricted by the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act.
Yeah, FACTA. And that is, I tell you that it's more than that. The Patriot Act was the major blow. FACTA is just something that is permitted because of the Patriot Act. And those two acts pretty much mean they have the right to spy on you anywhere in the world as long as you're an American citizen, and they use your banking as their means of gathering information on you. So if you could be doing something that's perfectly legal in the country where you are, and becomes very profitable, and you're able to put large amounts of cash in a bank account, they would consider that suspicious, and they would want that bank to. First of all, foreign banks, they don't want to have anything to do with American citizens anymore. You have to pretty much do business with an American bank in a foreign country because they don't want to have to comply with all these regulations. They think it's a waste of time. So you'd be in an American bank and they'd be sending all your information to the IRS, and they say, whoa. You have all these deposits coming in. We'll have to pay taxes. There's expenses. And but no, I think you're laundering money, or you're doing drug trafficking, or something like that. They can't imagine that you could be doing a legitimate business that's legal in that country and making a large profit. They just don't have that kind of thinking skill, and there's a one-channel brain. There's money, there's drugs. There's money, there's drugs, and that's just kind of how they think. For a while, there were people posting stories of different people that had their businesses shut down, their bank accounts taken, because they had been, quote, structuring their deposits to avoid being reported to the IRS for deposits over $10,000. This one woman, I think she probably was structuring to avoid having her stuff reported, but what she would do, she had a restaurant, and she would save up her money, and she would put it in the bank just prior to writing her payroll checks, because she would want to cover the payroll that she had. And so the payroll was under $10,000, so she would put enough money in the bank to cover those checks. She didn't really trust the banks. She didn't want to put all of her money in one place, so she had ways to hide it in her house or whatever, but she would only put enough money to do the payroll, because the payroll was less than $10,000. It looked like she was structuring her deposits. So they took all of her money. They closed down her business and took everything she had, because they thought she was involved in money laundering or drugs or something. They didn't have any proof. She was actually persecuted and punished without a trial. This is a real violation of her civil liberties. There's another guy that had a convenience store in kind of the East Coast, Southeast Coast. I think it was North Carolina. And he was pretty prosperous in his little convenience store. Those things make pretty good money. He was putting in $5,000 to $7,000 a day. They took all his money. He had saved up over $200,000. It was his retirement, and they just came and took it. Because they said, and he's going to have to probably spend close to that much money to get it back. This is just, they're highway robbermen, and they work in government. The people that are crooks work in government.
Don't forget civil. Don't forget civil forfeiture.
So I agree with Joe.
Obviously, and thank you, Joe, for the link. I posted them also to the Liberty Media in the chat and WolfTruth.org. And I wrote sending you an invite over here to WolfTruth. And you and I were talking about, and I'll get a grimmer on this, bringing your broadcast host events over to Real Liberty Media, simulcast on EXILED.TV. We'll look forward to getting that together. And for the listeners that have not heard Double Cross Radio, I invite you Thursday night to EXILED.TV to listen in. In the meantime, while we put this work together, bring it all together. Now, I was going to say something. Yes. You've had a lot of great guests, some well-known folks, and if you like freedom music, Jordan Page, he was an incredible guest, and his music intros your broadcast. So tell us about Jordan Page.
Okay, I was just sending a message to my story. Jordan Page is an amazing man. He was our first, I would say, big name, and there's probably a lot of you listening to this either right now live or in a recording somehow to say, I've never heard of Jordan Page. How could he be a big name? In the Liberty community, he's huge. He was the opening act for a lot of Ron Paul's appearances in 2012. You should check out his music if you haven't heard of him. He really is an amazing singer, songwriter, guitar player, poet. He writes songs that have that kind of like Bob Dylan did. Only Jordan can sing. That's a big difference. And they're really great songs as well. We use one of his songs, "Listen," as the theme song for our show, and it's I do a lot of I don't have as much time for it now as I used to, but sometimes I'll comment on things that people post on Facebook or maybe on a blog somewhere, and I hardly can go a week without quoting something from one of Jordan's songs, because those lyrics are just so true, they're so simple, they're so obvious once you hear them. Everybody should really check it out. I'm sure not everybody's going to like it, and my wife doesn't like the music, but she'll listen to it. I don't like the music she likes, so that's how there's a personal taste there. But I think one of the things that he says, and I'd probably open up my show in chat. I'll write this in chat quite often before I come on the air. It's just this is how's it going? This is more than I can take. Let's see. No, I'm not getting the lyric right, so I'm going to mess it up. There you go for a surprising, impromptu question I'm not prepared to answer very well. But this is more than I can take. That's what it says. And he's talking about that there's so many things going wrong, he has to stand up and speak. We have to stand up and speak. And that's what that lyric is kind of meaning. He says, this is more than I can take. And he's talking about wars. He's talking about, he just came out with a song called, it's a new release, it's a single, it's called Arm Yourself. And he's talking about, it's about the Second Amendment, but it's also about you arm yourself with education and knowledge and learning about what's going on around you, finding out what the truth is, and you arm yourself with the friends, the people you associate with. It really is a deep, heavy song. It's amazing. And he's just a very intellectual man. He's a 9/11 truther. We had a great show back in September, actually prior to September, talking about 9/11 and all the inconsistencies there are in the official story. And believe me, there's a lot of them. None of them, it really doesn't make any sense to anybody who has a high school knowledge of physics. It's impossible what they say happened to have happened. And it's, I think that anybody that believes the official story is the person who's delusional and conspiracy person, because the official story is a conspiracy to lie, and so they would be aiding and abetting the people that are lying to us. That was kind of the last straw for me. I was mostly awake at that point in time, and I tended to go with the official story until I started to think about it a little bit, and I said, this doesn't really make sense, because I have a really big science background, and I said, I'm watching these buildings fall down, and says, that doesn't look like a building plan, that looks like a planned demolition. and apparently a lot of architects and engineers believe that as well, and they came out with a great documentary called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and if you haven't watched that, you should watch it. Jordan also has a song, which I hope he'll release pretty soon, called Building Number 7. It's about that incident. He's performed it live several times. I've heard him perform it a couple times. And I'll tell you that.
Now, I have I found the lyrics to listen, and I also dropped the YouTube link to listen. And so if you'd like to read the work, but this is a great song, and listen to the sound that you hear, like that echoing you hear, the strange vibration rising out from the whole street of America. I'm not going to try to sing. You should listen for a minute. Listen to the sound of the drum calling the players to the game of the New World Order. Don't be caught unaware when they start rolling. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it wouldn't happen here. I will not submit to the authority of man. To the authority of man. I'm alive. I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you had an open door, we could kill a little more. Listen to the cries of the dead. Scroll. Where'd you go? Listen to the cries of the dead in the wake of this began. Is there no one out there? I see the blood in the sands of despair in Africa. Listen to the sound of applause in a chamber full of men, selling out their people as they plan their assault on the heart of America. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it wouldn't happen here. I will not submit to the authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you have an open door, will you kill a little more? There is a war machine in motion, and the bullets fall as rain, and the life in the eyes of the innocent has faded into pain. Yesterday I knew the world was spinning towards the end. Today I see the wasteland in it. Too late to pretend. Listen to the words that you hear. Said the ghost of Vietnam. Through a veil of napalm. Don't forget your mistakes. Don't forget your mistakes and where you came from. I will not submit to the authority of man. I'm ready to die, but not for a lie. See the signs appear. You know what's going to happen here. Thanks, Jordan Page.
Yeah, and it's that's the extended version. It includes the part about Vietnam. The one we play is the one that ended up on his Liberty CD. And so he took that out because he thought that people would be thinking too much, and he was trying to make it a song about Vietnam, and wanted a song about tomorrow. It's a song about, he wrote this when the war was in Afghanistan, not yet in Iraq, and he knew it was going to keep going and going, and he was hoping it wouldn't, but it's spreading throughout the whole Middle East, and they use this war as a means to enact. They call it a state of emergency because we're at war. It gives the president a lot more power. He can write more executive orders. He can do more things without having approval of Congress. As long as we're in a state of war, he has almost dictatorial authority over everything. And with the present person that we have in office, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. But it also made me feel very uncomfortable with the previous person and the person before that and the person before that. So I don't think the president makes a difference. I think it's the people that, these puppet masters are the ones that I'm really afraid of. I don't even know who they are.
We've had presidents for generations now are nothing more than the puppets for the puppet masters. I guess that's redundant. But, and by the way, thanks very much for the likes and the share of today's show. And he's going to be our guest next Monday. So I'm going to go with another block next week. And I just feel like there's so much to be said, so many voices that need to be heard. Friday, just one day Friday was not cutting it, and so pardon the sound quality on my end. My voice is not important. It's the voices that we bring to bear. So, I'm nobody great. I just want to do great things with great people, and that's thanks to Flash for producing the show. I know he hasn't said very much today because Chuck, you've had so much great things to say, and overall enjoying listening. And
I
really
couldn't possibly have answered everybody's questions. I should have created more questions in their mind, like, why don't you want to stay and fight?
Fight what?
I don't have my own MRAP.
Wait. Stay and fight what? I left about 4 years ago. And stay and fight what? What kind of life is that?
Yeah, it's I think that.
But fight
there's
what?
A lot of good. If we do have a kind of an internal civil war, there'll be a lot of really good people that are going to perish for nothing. There'll be a lost cause because we are so far outgunned it isn't even funny. We don't have any jets. We don't have any tanks. We don't have any ballistic missiles. They can call in what they call a surgical strike with a missile. They can target it to come in through your bedroom window.
You're describing
top warm football team going against the Green Bay Packers.
But you're describing Palestine, not Detroit.
No, it'll be the United States if we have a civil war here. The government will win.
Oh yeah. There's people that's calling for blood in the streets, and I just don't think they know much about history.
I never see any of it.
They own all the bullets. How many billions of rounds of bullets have they purchased? Why would they want to do that? Because they don't want to run out of ammunition.
There is a time, and correction from Grimmer says we are not at war, they are. Yeah, they are at war against us. There is a time to, and like Anthony says, when it actually comes time for the Second Amendment to come to bear, it's probably too late. There was and I know there's a lot of people that they want to knock everything down, say how this person is all part of it. But listen, I spent a few weeks out at the Bundys. I was there. I met the common folk that came to stand in the gap despite the fear of what the retribution from the government. I walked up to that line of cops. We shut down the interstate. We could go free those gals, right? Turn them loose. And I went up to them to ask them questions. And I'm not afraid to tell you. I was so scared. I was shaking like a dog shitting tracks. You know what? We stand in that gap despite our fear. We have a place and a role to play. And where are you gonna start? Where are you gonna stop? When are you going to take a stand and or just let it go? Do what you can. Where you can.
There's a lot of smaller steps that people can take. I've done this. I think I've done this 3 times now. One of them was actually two separate occasions on the same incident, but they were different people. You are confronted with just a bureaucratic morass. It's something that is so far out of line of reasonable people, but you have no power to resist. I mean, they have all the cards, and you're just being unjustly punished or whatever, because I'm a big mouth or whatever. And the first time I was on the phone with this person, I said, well, listen, I'm not mad at you. I know I sound upset. I'm not mad at you at all. I know you're just doing your job. But I want you to remember that the people that were working in those gas chamber prison camps for the Nazis were just doing their jobs too. And eventually you have to come to the realization that you have to live in this world that you're helping to create, just like I do. And the government that can sit there and do this unjust thing to me can do this unjust thing to you, and it's your choice to be on their side and to help them for your own self-interest. That kind of, that's something you're going to have to live with. Because eventually, when you decide that you don't want to be a part of this anymore, there isn't going to be anybody like me out there to stand up for it because they already would have vanquished me. So, you know, I just want you to know that you're not helping yourself at all by you know, being the person that they send out to give me the bad news. And this was something that my benevolent state fined me for not doing something properly, and it cost me $500. But I got my 2 cents in, and the lady said, so when I said this, I hope that you take this as constructively as possible. I don't hold any grudge against you at all. I just think you're just a person that's looking after their own self-interest, and that's a rational point of view. But it's only rational when you look short-term, and when you expand your thinking to realize that you could be caught in the same net. All of a sudden, it doesn't seem so rational that you're helping to dig your own grave. And she was pretty quiet, and she says, "Well, thanks. That's kind of a sobering comment, and I will take that under advisement. But I would just advise you don't go against them because they'll just replace me with somebody else." And so I understand. And then the second time, I was able to do it face to face to somebody. I looked them in the eye. They couldn't look me in the eye, and I would just say, "Do you think what I did was worthy of this punishment? Who was the victim here?" And they couldn't answer. Well, he says, "Am I being afforded a trial?" He says, Let's go to court." So, well, they have a hearings officer that'll hear your complaint. Oh, somebody from their office. I want to have a common law court hear this matter. And they said, well, I don't. They don't know. No one's ever asked them that. I says, I don't think there's a victim for what I did, and I actually realized that what I done was a violation of your rule, and I confessed, and I paid what I thought was the difference that I should make up, and you're assessing a further penalty. I think that's unreasonable. And anyway, that was 2 different incidents. It was the same kind of deal, and then I had, on that second incident, I had a third person I had to talk to because they wanted me to talk to a hearings officer, and he was unbelievable. That's just how it is. The government's that way. The people that work for them, they need the cash. They need to put food on the table for their kids. I understand all that. But, you know, if any of you out there work for a government agency, I just want you guys to know that that's the same government that put a 77-year-old man in prison for doing what was legally his right to do on land that he had the right to set a fire on it. And, you know, it wasn't more than 2 years after that the BLM set fires on that same land for the same reasons and burned down 2 people's homes. But they didn't go to prison. They weren't terrorists. See, there actually were some victims in that crime. There were some victims there. It's this total stuff. It's just total nonsense. This is going on in our government court system. They are so powerful. It's like a star chamber. And they get the willing people in the Congress to pass laws that say they can accuse you of being a terrorist. You don't have to be convicted, just accused. They can arrest you without a warrant. They can put you in an undisclosed location for an indeterminate amount of time, and without notifying anybody where you are, and you're just there. And people say, well, that's okay, we want to get rid of these raghead terrorists. Well, hello? This guy that's just doing something that's been done on this land for over 100 years is suddenly called a terrorist for doing something that's common practice. Doing something that the BLM themselves do, albeit much more poorly. It's a horrible state of affairs, and I don't think there's an easy fix to this. I think, like I said, we're outgunned. We have to change people's minds. That's why I have my radio show. We have to change the way they think. We have to embrace the things that are real and the things that actually work, and follow the models of people like Marie Curie and the Wright brothers and the people I've talked about on my show that are just extraordinary people that actually changed history and changed civilization with their passion for doing something. And we have to be that way about freedom. I don't think we are. I think we take it for granted. And I tell you, there wasn't a bigger slap in my face than when I was down in Playa del Carmen. I'm watching those people enjoy their dinner on the beach and say, they'd be in prison in America for trying to do this.
Yeah, but we live in the land of the free, though, don't we?
That's what we say. That's part of the programming, the indoctrination.
Exactly. Free to do is good for soul. And Grimmer says, come on, Flash. This is talking a little bit at you. Detroit is Palestine. And there's so much truth in that. There's no ambiguity to that statement at all. But all these laws, all these so-called officials of government, they're against us. They are at war against us. And that is absolutely correct. And to think that they could, like you said, about the Hammonds, the fire, they burn off the grass, which makes it better grazing. You jumped over the line a little bit. I don't know. I think it burned 16 acres or something like that, which is minuscule. And if you think the cows ain't benefit in the desert, they actually, the ranchers out there on BLM land, the public use, they're making the land better. The cows graze it.
Yeah, the hooves break up the soil. The hooves break up the soil. The watering troughs, leaks and things, they make up these little tiny mini ecocultures of animals that go there to get the water, and they feed off the other animals in there, and they just little tiny miniature ecosystems. They fertilize the ground with their poop. The grass wouldn't do anybody any good if it wasn't eaten. It just die out when the winter comes. So they're making productive use of a resource that is renewable, and I don't know. People just don't understand. People do not understand how ranching works. They don't. I have to admit, I'm a city boy. There's a lot about farming and farming and ranching. I don't really understand completely, but some of the things I hear people say, I said, man, do you think eggs grow on plants? They're talking about being a vegetarian or a vegan, and they don't eat meat. They just eat eggs for their protein. I said, what? They're wearing leather shoes. They don't. There's a lot of people that they don't understand where things come from. They don't understand the processes. And once they find out, then we have to stop that too. Everybody, what are you gonna wear?
Well, I just don't think you got to be killing animals. I think we ought to go to the supermarket here.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to go to Amsterdam and just get a body tattoo.
There you go.
Yeah, solve it all.
Or you can wear a ribbon to show that you really care.
Nah, I wouldn't waste my time with that shit.
Okay. But I do have some hope. It's not, this isn't like the end of everything. This was 3 days ago. I got a new customer at my store, and he came in, and he was looking around, and he made some comment that led me to believe that he was aware that the Federal Reserve was a giant con. And we had about a 40-minute discussion talking about stuff, and this guy's he's like Drew. He's like somebody that he knows everything I know, and I know what he knows, and we had a great time exchanging things that we knew about stuff, and we knew all the same stuff. Because once you know the truth, it's the same truth for everybody. And
it's good to hear TSA is expanding.
That's right. We need more pedophiles out there groping our children as we go through the lines in the airport and stealing our valuables out of our carry-on luggage, and who knows what they do with the other luggage that they put through there. I never put anything of value in my checked baggage, and I always tell people when they start to look at my stuff that they have to look into it. I says, if you're going to open that, I need to be there to watch. And they go, why? I says, because I've heard over 400 of the TSA agents have been arrested for theft. So I'm not saying that you're one of them. But I'm going to verify that all my stuff stays there. And so they usually back off a little bit. So I'm trying to be reasonable, but I just have to watch. And if you decide there's something on there that you have to take out, you're going to give me a signed voucher for it so that I can be reimbursed for his theft. And that doesn't make me real popular. Sometimes they call over law enforcement people. I say, look, I'm not trying to make a problem. I just don't want you to take something that belongs to me without giving me some money for it, what it's worth, so I can replace it. And try if you're going to employ this strategy, make sure you get to the airport way early, because you could burn an hour and a half easily doing this.
I haven't flown since right after 9/11. Up to where I fly through Boston. But tax deal theft, and everybody says, well, we have an obligation to pay for the roads. All right, Larkin roads. But who will pay for the roads? I had a great honor of meeting Larkin in Vegas last year. An incredible person. And somebody actually said that, he's like the same thing they said about Clyde Bundy, rich guy, just working the system and making money off of it. Let me assure you that Clyde Bundy is not a rich man.
And neither is
his house. No. And
Mark Rose is a brilliant thinker.
He is incredible. I have on my YouTube channel. I videoed him there in his speaking engagement at the Coffee Bean TV, I think it's called, in Vegas, across from UNLV. They're over the plaza anyway. But on my YouTube, I have that recorded. There is a lot better quality that you can find. Larkin Rose in Vegas. There's a lot of great people. Austin Thomas. I'll be talking to him next week. He said Block Talk. I've got a lot of great friends over at Block Talk, and so we have some slots here at Real Liberty Media that I'm looking to bring along over here and use their voices, broadcast to Real Liberty Media.
He's one of my Facebook friends as well. He's one of the people that explained to me the difference between liberty and freedom. And I used to call myself a liberty activist, and after he explained the difference, I became a freedom activist, because liberty is something that someone grants. Freedom is something that's a natural right. And the more I thought about it, I said, he's exactly right.
And what is liberty? I mean, just think of liberty as being a sailor on board a ship. They left you off, but there's conditions that you come back. So your liberty is giving you a little bounds to run, or a little extra leeway on the chain. So
it's just a thought occurred to me. I want to interrupt you for just a second, because I think this is something that really stuck in my mind the first time I heard it. And it was the first time we had Jeff Berwick on our show, and we were kind of arguing with him about whether people should stay, or whether it really was as bad as he says. And he brought up a quote from Harriet Tubman, and it says she was a conductor on the Underground Railway. She had freed many slaves, and the quote goes like this: "I freed 1,000 slaves on the Underground Railway. I could have freed 1,000 more, but they didn't know they were slaves." And I want you guys to really digest that. Everybody that listens to this, whether it's live right now or if you're listening to it on a podcast, and just think of that. It says, do I fully realize that I'm a slave? And when I was down to Playa del Carmen and I saw that people enjoying that dinner, that was, like I said, a huge slap in the face. Well, there's so many levels of slavery and control that I'm not even aware of. And I'm aware of a lot of them, but that was something that I had not even thought about until I saw that happen and realized that could not happen in America. And we are so overwhelmed by their control. And I work in a store where all my product that I sell is really vigorously controlled by the state, but at least they're honest about it. And it's pretty obvious what that control is. They're not trying to pee on your leg and tell you it's raining. That's something I can deal with, because I can wrap my head around ways to still be free in my mind and still try and provide a service for people and all that sort of thing. But when you have these laws and conditions that make it impossible to live the life that you would choose to live just because someone else says you can't, when you are not harming any other person, they're so unjust. And that's another Jordan Page song lyric. A law that is unjust is no law at all.
No, laws. They make legal lawful in our world today. Joe Friday at UCY.TV chat says that there's a wet dream to make the USA, and I've got you covered. I'm going to have to move you over out of the way just a minute. Just like Palestine, the military on the streets who can question your every move. Papers, please.
That's right. And there are 4 states whose driver's licenses are not considered valid identification. And so if you're going to travel by plane out of those states, you have to show a passport to travel inside the United States. Pretty soon you're going to have to show a passport if you get pulled over by police. So you have permission. You have to have permission to travel, period. Outside of your zone of, where it's normal for you to move around in. It's moving in this direction. Whether it gets to that point or not, it kind of depends on a lot of other factors that I have no control over. I don't know. But I believe that's where they would like it to go. They want to know where everybody's doing every moment of the day. I believe there are drones flying up there above us all the time, taking pictures and stuff. And they're just watching. They're getting good at doing what they're doing, and then when it comes time to put the hammer down, you don't want to be the nail.
Yeah, because the nail sticking up gets the hammer, right? And Dreamer says that may be, if you use their definition, talking about liberty, but, and I agree with this, real liberty is freedom, and this is Real Liberty Media, and not owned by their definition.
I will accept that, but I want to point out that that's one of the things that they try and do is they try and destroy the meanings of words. And so, and Austin Thomas wasn't the person destroying it, but he's pointed out to me that liberty doesn't mean what it used to mean. They destroyed the meaning of it. And I think that's really true. That's part of what I said about that quote from Samuel Adams in 1765. Is that how strangely will the tools of a tyrant pervert the plain meaning of words? And in the 19th century, liberty meant the absence of force and coercion. You were at liberty to do something. It means there was no force or coercion being applied on you. It doesn't mean that anymore. It means you've been granted permission to leave the plantation for a while. So they've perverted the meaning of our language. So Liberty Media can still mean something different to all of us. But I think that for a lot of people out there, freedom, the voice of freedom or something would be a lot stronger message. It'd be something that's a word they haven't been able to pervert yet. But they're trying. They don't give up. I stopped watching TV shortly after I got married for the second time. I've mainly been watching sports programming before that, and my wife liked to watch some of these dramas and things that came on TV, and I was just shocked at how blatant the propaganda was in those shows towards anti-freedom. We have to take away this person's civil liberties, his freedom, in order to protect more people. And because we're doing this, we're doing God's work and that sort of thing. And I just got so much I just couldn't watch. When she would turn on those shows, I would just leave. And she eventually saw the same thing, and so we don't watch TV anymore.
I gave my TV away a few years ago to some friends of mine that, I don't feel bad about it. It's pretty much helpless. I spend all my time, I spend my time talking to people about the issues that I talk about here on air. Whether it be, this is a great one. I love to ask a cashier if they accept Federal Reserve notes. And 99% of the time, what the resounding response is, No, we don't take them. We take cash. Well, it's as cash, as Al Lincoln says. But nobody knows. Most people do not even realize what the Federal Reserve knows. I go into the bank and talk to them about it.
You should tell them when you say that it's not money, but it functions as currency. It's a Federal Reserve note.
Private, no reserve debt.
Yeah, it's a debt note. And then you pull one out and you read it to them, and they go, "Well, that's money." No, it's not. It's currency. Money has value.
Yes. The currency is used as money, and that's you can read it as it's written in their legalese. So,
yeah.
Are you familiar? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was part of the plan to take over the United States, to defeat it. Is the 1913 they destroyed the power of the states to send senators to the Congress, enacted made is an amendment that's unconstitutional. So but they passed it during a Christmas recess, and then they had the Supreme Court they stood down. So we have the IRS, and then they allowed for the creation of a central bank, which was also unconstitutional. 1913 was the year that the actual combat started. They spent the previous 30 years setting everything up so that they could enact all that.
Yeah, the government is the true pirates on this thing.
They are now.
Yeah, that's for sure. We're going to run out of time here in about 4 minutes. Real quick, I just wanted to say I've got some great guests scheduled. They are lining up actually right now for next week. Monday, Larry Woods. This is going to be a great show on energy, different frequency protection, talking about possibility of space travel. I hope to now. Ron Stevens, he couldn't make it with me this last week, so I hope to be able to bring him in. I'm looking at some other folks that I'm waiting on, confirmation on time. Suzanne Posel, Daniel Strumpton, Ralph Epperson, Daryl Becker. I'm looking to bring him in for the next week. And dang it, I can't pull the name of his site. I'm sorry, Bill. Off the top of my head. Daryl Becker. We're going to talk about nonviolent communication, and so many times a lot of terms, words get owned and misconstrued. So, yeah, voluntary is probably a better word. Voluntary communication and how we are able to come to conclusions through the trivia method. So, looking forward to a lot of great programs here, and hopefully I can get this sound adjusted a little better here on my end. So I'd really like to thank you, Chuck, for joining in. Welcome, and thanks everybody for joining in. Thank you, Flash. Thanks, Chuck. Awesome producers. My co-captain, Flash. Chuck, you're an amazing man. I just want to thank you again for coming on board, and let's look forward to getting you spot with that.
I was honored to be here, and I'm just an ordinary guy like a lot of you out there. You just need, if you're wondering why you think differently than I do, maybe you should turn off your TV. Because I think that was really helped me to see things a lot clearer. You start getting bored and you start spending more time actually dealing with stuff that really matters. So,
right.
Thank you for inviting me. This was a fast 2 hours. It went by like a snap of a finger.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I missed your 2 hours on Thursday nights, but I'll take what I can get with the 1 hour. So,
but I want to tell you this though: if it wasn't that Circline wasn't here, I wouldn't be in Denmark. I'd be in some other country. But the reason I'm in Denmark is because I met her, and this is where she wants to stay.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up here in about a minute. Thanks, Flash. Thank you, sir. Bessie, Beth Z says, what's the TV? So, thank you, Denver. Thank you, Jules. Y'all are among my heroes, and I really appreciate it. And all of listeners. Hey, if you guys wasn't here, I'd be talking to myself, saying the same thing, I guess. But I'm proud that you're along. So anyway, hey, this is No Time for Rational Thinking. This has been episode 5, Exile, Expatriation, and reasons we might want to leave the country and go elsewhere. So we're going to kill it. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Flash. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks, everybody, for listening again. Really, really appreciate y'all being along. And the great forum at worldtruth.org and reallibertymedia.com, UCY.TV. Love and peace. We're out. Still the